Welcome in to the Bobby Carpenter Show, everybody, and it is a big Friday here. The Buckeyes are finally off their bye week. They will be playing after what seems like an eternity, Schlegel. So we sat here. College football was good last weekend, but when there's no Ohio State, it feels a little bumpy. USC didn't play last week. There's a number of teams. I think Penn State was off. Number of teams on bye. So excited to get everybody back in the action, get them back in the saddle this week. We have the Marshall Thundering Herd coming to Ohio Stadium for a big noon 12 o'clock kick. And Schlegel, the spread is about 40 points, and we'll get into our keys to victory and everything else that we've got to see later. But just some initial thoughts of this game as we dive right into it here on this Football Friday.
Well, I mean, after the bye week, Ohio State's won by double-digit margins, including 4 times by over 40, which bodes well for them covering that spread. And we've also seen –
did you steal that from Ben Stevens, Schlegel?
Maybe a little bit. Listen, I get all my stuff from Ben Stevens. Like, I look at it. Now, honestly, and on my paper, it's actually in parentheses, right? So you got to give credit where credit is due. But you look at Marshall, and again, this game is not about what Marshall does. It's all about how Ohio State executes, and we'll talk about that in our tailgate talk, Bob. But to me, it's just, how does Ohio State improve from what they did versus Western Michigan to this going against this Marshall team to really ramp up for going on the road, starting Big Ten play when they play Michigan State next week. But this is also coming off an improvement week. And you got guys chomping at the bit to get on the field. And I want to see that energy because they started really fast against Western Michigan. Can they do that again this week?
Absolutely. So little nugget there. I'm excited about it. Like you said, with that offensive line continue to grow, continue to gel. Can Will Howard continue to stay in sync with that defense look as dominant as it has? All questions, coming off the bye, Ryan was very excited about that Tuesday practice. It was as physical and tough a practice as I had seen in quite some time for an in-season practice. Wednesday was a little hot, maybe not quite the same level of tempo. Then you polish it on Thursday and you're ready to go. And here you go. So you got that going. So we'll put a little pin in that. We'll come back to it. Got a big show today because we got Joshua Perry, who we both love. So he's going to be a real linebacker-heavy show. But Joshua Perry, you can see him on NBC, the Peacock, there on Saturday night at the desk. He's going to be joining us here in the second and third blocks before we get to some headlines, tailgate talk, and as always, our dude of the week. And remember, dude is not a gender. Dude is a lifestyle. Men, women, everybody. I mean, probably animals. Like you put anything in there. Dude of the week knows no bounds. That's the important thing that we need to keep aware of and make sure that we understand. Some other big games. Huge game tonight as you look at it in the Big Ten. Yes. You have number 24 Illinois heading to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on the 22 ranked Cornhuskers. Now, whoever loses this game will probably fall out of the top 25 slates. They're both 3-0 right now. Villanova is looking pretty good at Nebraska. I believe it's got 5-6 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He's thrown it for almost 700 yards. Like he has looked crisp. That Nebraska D line looked really good against Colorado. They've looked smothering thus far. They have looked dominating. Matt Rule seems to have them humming. And on the other side, we got your guy Burt Bielema, who seems to have the Fighting Illini looking pretty good too. They had a big victory over Kansas that I think a lot of people didn't expect. And this wasn't your typical Kansas team, Schlegel. This was a Kansas team with expectations. It was ranked 20th. So this leads to a ranked matchup here this evening, 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff on Fox. How do you feel about this bad boy?
I like this bad boy. I think it's fantastic considering the fact that we play Nebraska down the road. It bodes well for them. Obviously, we would like for them to be undefeated as you go in and you talk about seeding and perception is reality in college football. But then I look at this Illinois team and how they beat Kansas. Illinois has 8 takeaways on the season, guys. Like they're very opportunistic, and they're going to have to control the line of scrimmage, which Nebraska doesn't necessarily run it very well. And Nebraska is 116th against the rush. So if you want to limit Dylan Raiola, like run the football, keep him off the field, I think that is the recipe for success when you go into Lincoln. And again, I think the Nebraska program, the fan base is awesome. How do you slow that down? Control the clock, run the football, right? And then again, Dylan Raiola, he's thrown some interceptions this year. Illinois has had the takeaways. that flips the field position. I think it's going to be a tighter game than people expect. I think it's going to be a really physical game. And Bret Bielema, that's what he's about. So it's a great test of freshman quarterback, what Nebraska's doing. People want their brand to be back. But then you got Illinois. They're just kind of scrappy, and they found a way to win and beat a number 19, number 20 Kansas. I like this game. I actually like Illinois in this game, especially with the 7.5.
Okay.
I think close.
You like the points.
I don't know if they necessarily win, but I think that I like the points on this.
Well, what's kind of crazy you mentioned Nebraska's rush defense being 115 in the country, kind of surprising because played UTEP, beat them 40-7. They played Colorado, who they beat 28-10, and Northern Iowa, who they beat 34-3. And so those games are all stretched. I watched most of the Colorado game. Didn't really catch a lot of the other two, but when you're in a big lead like that, generally there's not a lot of rushing the football, and we know that Colorado really didn't want to run it. So it's kind of curious that they would be that poor, and we know that Illinois wants to pound the ball with Bret Bielema. Okay,
I like he called Bert.
Well, I mean, he looks like a Bert more than a Brett, so he's going to be Bret Bielema. Well, it's the little switcheroo. You just switch that R and the E on the inside there, and it's all well and good. Probably the biggest game in the Big Ten, minus the probably this weekend. It's a 3:30 CBS tilt. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Another big game coming to town. As you look at this, USC, who's ranked 11th, surprising to see. The Wolverines are 6.5-point dogs at home. This line has moved a lot before the season. We heard Ben Stevens tell us they were like touchdown favorites. Then it swung all the way back. It's tightened up a little bit. I don't know, Schlegs, if Michigan, even with the starting of Alex Orji, and we'll get into more of this with Joshua Perry, like if they have enough to be able to move the ball, control it, to give their defense the reprieve to be able to continually slow down the Southern Cal Trojans.
You look at Miller Moss and what he did on neutral field versus LSU. I think that he's fantastic. And again, college football, NFL football, it's a quarterback-driven league, right? Conference, whatever you want to call it. But that's what it is. It all goes down to the quarterback. And you look at Michigan, Alex Orji now is the starting quarterback. He has like thrown the football like less than 10 times, I think. Something like that. It's crazy. So they also ran for
the Michigan fans have complained because they said every time he goes in, they know it's a run. And the irony of that is like, well, is that a big deal if you know if it's a run or a pass? I thought that those things didn't matter. Apparently, maybe they do.
And here's the deal. Last week they rushed for 301 yards. So if the ground game works and we're running it and you can't stop it, that's going to go on the USC's defense, which I think is better, which I think, again, Michigan lost a ton of starters last year. We know that. How physical can USC be on the road versus Michigan team? Michigan's key to success is going to be time of possession. It's going to be holding USC to 3rd and long, getting behind the sticks, trying to make them one-dimensional, and I'll rely upon that defense to control field position and time of possession. That's how they're going to have to do it. And you can't turn the ball over. For Michigan to win this game, they're going to have to be positive in the turnovers, and they're going to have to put USC behind the sticks, and they're going to have to absolutely own the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football if they want to win. If not, they're going to be out of the top 25. USC is going to be in the top 10, and that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, it's got to be a clean game for Michigan. Absolutely. They cannot give USC short fields. They have to take advantage when they have the football. And if they want to win this game, I think the lower scoring, the better, because if this thing gets into the 30s, it's game, set, match. I think if it gets in the high 20s, the point total is 43.5. I mean, you're looking at a game that I think for them to win, the under has to hit in that.
Yep.
Okay, we got Joshua Perry coming up quickly here, but wanted to get to one other big game as well. Number 6, Tennessee, heading to Norman, Oklahoma to take on the Oklahoma Sooners, who are ranked 15th with Brent Venables. Jackson Arnold got involved with the run game a little bit more recently. It's starting to look a little better. Nico Iamailoa, he's been throwing the ball pretty well, but they've been running it even better at Tennessee. Early thoughts and feelings on this. Tennessee, a 6.5-point favorite.
Yeah, on the road in Norman. Here's the deal, though, man. OU only is averaging 2.6 yards a carry. And Tennessee has beat their first three teams 191-13, guys. And it wasn't like they didn't play anybody. NC State, who everybody thought was really good, like they absolutely dominated them, right? 143 yards, 3-12 on third down, 3 turnovers in that game. That's why they're able to put up the points because of the turnovers that they're getting. There is no way that I think this is 6.5 points. I think Tennessee wins, but it's all going to be based on how good is Oklahoma's defense. Can they get turnovers and set their offense up for a short field? What's the under on that? What's the under on that?
And don't underestimate the relationship of Josh Heupel, Brent Venables. Both of those guys coached together at Oklahoma. Josh Heupel, was fired from his alma mater, left, went and started doing a heck of a job. Now the head coach of Tennessee and really ramping it up there. So he's going to want to show out for his former alma mater and place of employment. Juicy J, Schlegs, every time you come out, you want to show out, bring that dough out, maybe bring that blowout. I don't know. But more importantly here, you want to protect your face. You want to protect your grill. You want to protect your noggin. Attention, athletes and parents. Protect what matters most with 𝗟𝗓𝗡 mouthguards, trusted by professional athletes, designed by NHL team dentists. 𝗟𝗓𝗡 mouthguards are scientifically tested to absorb high-impact hits, protecting you both your teeth, the grill, and your brain. 𝗟𝗓𝗡 mouthguards feature 3 layers of protection, including the patented use of carbon fiber to custom fit. They 3D print this to your unique smile. That means better performance, maximum comfort, better protection, clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Go to xsportguards.com/Bobby and save 15% on your order. 𝗟𝗓𝗡, protect what matters most. Joshua Perry of NBC up next.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like. I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
Oh, and now we get to welcome in our guy, Joshua Perry. Big weekend for you, Joshua. Thanks for taking some time for us here on this wonderful Friday. Of all the games you've looked at, is there one game this week, and we got a couple of really nice ones, that's piquing your interest the most?
It's a good question. I mean, we got the USC-Michigan game, which I think is an interesting one for a lot of reasons. We are beneficiaries of conference realignment, so we got that game. The other one to me, I feel like Tennessee has started to become a real legit contender in people's mind, and now they get to go play at Oklahoma against a Brent Venables coach team that has a really good defense. So it's going to be strength on the other side. Tennessee trying to be a team known for their defense as well. They play great on that side of the ball. Oklahoma has some issues offensively. Can they get right? Like, do we believe in Tennessee's defense? Is Oklahoma's offense ready to take a step? I think there's a lot of intrigue in that game.
Hey, Joshua, another game I'm excited about because we play them next week, and I really like the team that they're playing against, and that's Michigan State, Boston College. Michigan State going up to New England, all right, playing BC at their home and everything that Bill O'Brien has done with that program. Do you see Michigan State improving? Do you see – because BC just coming off that, honestly, really controlled the entire game versus Missouri. Do you see Michigan State winning this game?
I think BC is probably the better team at this point. You mentioned what they did against Missouri, and it was a great response by Missouri, but like they really showed up in that one, obviously dominated Florida State. I think Michigan State has gotten better, right? Like this is a team that certainly looks different than it did over the last couple of years, but I don't think this year was their year to take a big step. Got a really young quarterback in Aiden Childs who's had some good moments, certainly had some really questionable moments as well in terms of ball security, where he puts the football. I think the lines of scrimmage probably still need to get better for Michigan State there. I do think it's going to be a battle, but I trust Boston College more in that game. All of that to say, when Ohio State goes to play Michigan State, I think they should be able to control the game in a week or so, but it's going to be different than years past because I do think this Michigan State team is better. They've got more fight in them.
So Joshua, Notre Dame is going to be welcoming in the Miami Redhawks. You know, they beat up Purdue last week in a monstrous way. It was 42-0 at halftime, for heaven's sake. Are they fixed? Like, is this Notre Dame team, are we going to see more of that, of what we saw last week, you feel like? Or the fact that they won big, still didn't really pass the ball all that well, is that going to eventually come back to bite them?
Yeah, I think that's an issue. I think their offense is a real problem. I think Notre Dame defensively is in a really good spot. They've got a defensive line.
When the kids say he's a real problem, like that's a good thing now. Is this not a good thing anymore?
No. I'm not a kid. I am an adult. I speak the same language that y'all speak. So when I say it's a real problem, I mean it's very problematic for them. Like I said, defensively, they're built well in the front. They've got a great secondary. It's probably one of the top in the country. They can take the football away, so I don't worry about that. You mentioned the offense, and that really is the problem for them right now. And they ran the ball extremely well. And I think they've got two really good running backs plus a quarterback that's essentially a running back. I call him running back Riley as of right now because he has not proven that he can throw the football. They do not stretch the field. There is zero verticality to their offense. And I would say the one thing that was good was they ran more play action. They ran more RPO against Purdue. But when it comes to shots down the field, they have none of it to their game. There was a wide open downfield look for Riley Leonard, and he held the ball, he patted it and said, "Nah, I'm just going to run it." And that's what they've gotten themselves into. And so until they can figure out this pass game, and this is not just on the quarterback, I don't think the wide receivers are great for Notre Dame. If they can't get that situated, I think they are gettable down the line.
Hey, we got Rutgers. I mean, and you know, everybody's thinking that Rutgers was going to have a shot because of their schedule. And now they're going, you know, to Va Tech. Va Tech got upset by Vandy. They want to have a chance in the ACC. What do you think Rutgers can do on the road, going there? Enter Sandman's coming. Oh, side nugget, Metallica's playing in that stadium, I think, over like in May next year. That'd be amazing. But how do you think Rutgers is going to fare in this game? Can they take care of business down there?
It's one of my upset picks for this week. I think Rutgers can win it. They haven't had a lot of success there at Lane Stadium. It's been a house of horrors for them going back to the Big East days, but I think that this is a really good team. If you start to look at the analytics, I don't necessarily like live and die by PFF, but the numbers for Rutgers, particularly on offense, are phenomenal. They're one of the top graded offenses. They've got one of the best offensive lines per PFF. They've got one of the best run games. Kyle Monungai is top 3-4 back in the Big Ten Conference this year. I think they have a real opportunity to get a win. And the different thing about this Rutgers team, and I've talked to Greg Schiano about this, he likes the way that he's recruited in terms of the body types, right? Like they're under-recruited guys, but they look like Big Ten players. They look like big-time guys, but he's got a veteran team right now. And so I think that's what he's leaning on. I think they're going to pull off the upset.
It'd be nice to see because that would be huge. They could be rolling in undefeated to Nebraska, assuming that Nebraska maybe takes care of business tonight. That could lead for a nice little undefeated matchup. And speaking of that, you got Illinois heading out there, Burt Bielema taking on the Matt Rule and the Huskers. Like, this is probably like a good old-fashioned, formerly Big Ten West rock fight that'll probably be somewhere in the teens or 20s. But, I mean, the winner's going to come out undefeated. It feels like Nebraska, if they win this, Joshua, I mean, there's a good chance they could be rolling into Columbus undefeated if they could get this win.
Yes, I agree with that. And the more I watch Nebraska, the more I believe that they are a good football team, but I do think people are getting a little bit ahead of themselves. Dylan Raiola has been phenomenal, especially as a young quarterback. He has not turned the football over, and that was a Nebraska issue offensively over the last handful of years. But like against Colorado, really good first half. The production kind of tailed off in the second half. He still is a young quarterback, and we got to give him a little bit of a break there. The thing for me is the defenses in this game, I think, are really good. And Illinois took a step back last year on defense with Ryan Walters leaving, going to Purdue. They found their stride on that side of the ball. Tony White, the defensive coordinator for Nebraska, is one of the best in the country and doesn't get enough credit for the work that he's done. So when you say an old Big Ten West rock fight, I'm totally there with you. I do think this is going to be a low-scoring game.
So Saturday, I know because we get the honor and privilege of having you on for 2 segments, and we'll talk USC, Michigan, Ohio State, and that later. But you got a big one going down in Stillwater with Utah and Oklahoma State, with quarterbacks that are older than I was when I was in college. And I had a redshirt year at the prep school and a transfer year. They're way older than I was. Well, how do you see this going down? So Utah's 12, Oklahoma State's 14. How do you see this going down in Stillwater? This is big for the Big 12.
It is. It's a huge game there. I got to say this, man. Cam Rising is a 90s baby, and I'm a 90s baby as well. So it's kind of wild seeing somebody born the same decade as me still out there on a college football field. It is a veteran quarterback battle. You've also got 2 of the longest tenured coaches in FBS, so these guys know what they're getting into. Utah, my pick to win the Big 12 to start the season. They're a little bit of a different team when they go on the road, but I still think they're a great team. And for Oklahoma State, they've struggled to get their run game going. Ollie Gordon's supposed to be one of the best players in the country, Heisman frontrunner potentially. He has not looked the same. And so I'm actually trusting Utah in this one, and it's going to have a lot to say about what we think happens in the Big 12 conference this year. But I'm going to go with Utah going on the road. I think that they've played really good ball, even with Cam Rising getting banged up. He's going to be back. I think they're poised to make a little bit of noise this weekend.
So there was a lot of noise surrounding Cam Rising. Would he be able to play this week, Joshua? It looks like you said he's going to be able to play. If there's some limitations on his effectiveness, does that change this game for you of how you think it goes?
Yes, I think if he can't be who he has been, which is a gutsy quarterback who, when the opportunity comes, he's going to put his face in there, whether you want him to or not. I think that can change the way this game turns out. But I'm rolling with the idea that as a wily veteran guy, he probably knew that this was a game he needed to come back for, and he's going to give everything he's got, even if he's got some stitches on his left hand.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Josh, we're going to take a quick break because we still got that Penn State or USC Michigan matchup. Find out if they're for real, and we have not talked about the Buckeyes yet. I want to get your thoughts on that coming up next on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Well, how do they know I'm doing this? Did somebody leak this out?
It's social media.
Oh.
It's just, that's the way social media works now.
I thought maybe you were just running that yap.
Welcome to Big Play, a sports media team that started back in 2014, and now we're not in a garage. Look at us, incorporating some of Cleveland's favorite sports personalities, bringing you fun and compelling content from downtown Cleveland. Coming to you live from the shores of Lake Erie and Burke Lakefront Airport, join Team Big Play for all the best sports talk in Ohio. Check us out on social media at Big Play, bringing you fun and compelling content from downtown Cleveland.
Welcome back in the program. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, leave comments. We love them all to be able to get there. Thank you for watching this and watch on Bally's. Appreciate that as well. And still here with Joshua Perry of the NBC Sports Desk. And Joshua, do we find out this weekend what Michigan really is? Because, they lose to Texas. They change quarterbacks. They go to Alex Orji. He's a much more talented player. Is he going to be better? A better fit for what they're trying to do? We'll see. But what do you like? What do you dislike about this game for the Wolverines?
Well, I do think we find out what Michigan is and who they want to be from an offensive philosophy standpoint. Going to Alex Orji definitely signals that they believe they want to be the team that they've been the past few years. And it's a team that starts with the ground game. And they ran it for over 300 yards against Arkansas State. So it's something that they're probably like, okay, we figured some things out. I still think they've got issues. They have an offensive line issue. Their right tackle is one of the worst that I've seen in a little while on tape. They got to get that figured out. They've been rotating centers through, and I think they might have found exactly the guy that they like there. But the idea that they had to rotate to figure it out is not what we've seen from Michigan. And then with Alex Orji, he's thrown 7 passes his whole college career. Donovan Edwards had more pass attempts than Alex Orji did a year ago. This is not a guy who they trust throwing the football at all. And this is from a quarterback in Davis Warren. He's taken the job over from a guy who's thrown 6 interceptions already in 3 games. And they still trusted him to throw the football more than they did with Alex Orji. And so I do think there's a lot of questioning for Michigan right now. What I will say, though, is they do have an opportunity in this game. USC is better on defense, but they are 13th in the Big Ten in yards per carry allowed, right? Michigan's probably looking at this front and saying they're still gettable if we can muster up some of what we have been in the past. So I think we learn a lot about either team here. There's not a ton to like about Michigan, though. And even with the quarterback switch, the offensive line, still a question to me. And the wide receivers have not done the quarterbacks any favors so far.
Yeah, it's a huge game because you go to this one, now you're 2-2. And then, you got Minnesota, Washington, but then you got Illinois who's on the up and up. You got a rivalry game versus Michigan State. Then you have Oregon. Then you have IU who's playing really good ball. Then you got Northwestern, then Ohio State. I mean, you theoretically could lose 6 games, so it's definitely a huge game for Michigan in their trajectory. One thing we got coming up in 2 weeks is Iowa, and everybody was talking about Iowa being in the mix, and you lose the Cy-Hawk Trophy, like really where they are. Is the offense turn around? They're at Minnesota. Who do you got in that one?
Well, that's the game that we have on primetime and NBC. I'm finishing up watching some of the film for that. I'll give you 2 nuggets here, and it's a lot on the defenses because I don't think either one of these offenses are that great. So for Minnesota defensively, they have 7 interceptions on the season, and they've done a great job of being opportunistic. When they get into zones, and they've shown a good amount of man-to-man, but when they get into zones, they play extremely well with their eyes. They break on the football aggressively. They tackle well in space. And so I think they have the opportunity to take the football away from an Iowa team that maybe a little bit better offensively, still nothing to call home about. For Iowa on defense, they've given up more 50-yard plus plays this year than they did all of last year. There is a little bit of a question about Iowa defensively, and have they taken maybe a step back from the all-world defense that they've played? Now, this is not to say that they aren't a good defense. They are still very good, but feels a little bit different here. I actually think Minnesota has a pretty good opportunity to win this one. And the offense is, I think the game plan is pretty laid out for either one of them. If I was a defensive coordinator in this game, I'd line my safeties up at about 9 yards because the 2 running backs on either side are really good. Caleb Johnson for Iowa, Darius Taylor for Minnesota. And I think that's where the game is going to be. It's going to be a ground and pound game. But when the ball is in the air, I do think Minnesota has the opportunity to take it away.
So let's get to the game now that everybody wants to hear about. The Herd coming into Columbus, Ohio. Marshall played Virginia Tech tougher than people thought, rushed the ball pretty well for about $150 on them. They're going to be a level up, I think, athletically from Akron, Western Michigan. What are kind of some of your thoughts on this Friday heading into that big noon kick tomorrow?
Well, I think first off, in games like these, and I guess thank Notre Dame, right? You have to take everybody seriously. You don't get to think that these teams show up just to collect a check and not to actually win a football game. So these guys got to be locked in. I love what Ryan Day had to say throughout the week, too, because he was pretty serious about it. Marshall is a well-coached team. They've got a solid roster. They do some things well. And so I think Ohio State's very aware of it. In terms of the run game for Marshall, I would tend to agree with you, but Ohio State's given up 1.1 yards per carry so far this season, which is a ridiculous number. They're really good on the defensive front, and we've heard about these teams, Georgia, Michigan, with defensive tackles that can wreck the game. Ohio State's got 2 of them, and the edges have played as well as we've seen them play throughout their career. The linebackers, maybe a little bit inexperienced for Ohio State. Those guys have been aggressive. We know what the secondary is. I think the defense is well put together. I love the wrinkles that were shown on offense with the RPO and putting Howard out there in space and giving him the option to hand the ball, to run the ball, to throw the football. That is phenomenal. I'd like to see the downfield passing game develop a little bit more for Ohio State. I think that's my one big question about them. They got to have it shots down the field with some of these great wide receivers. But from week 1 to week 2 for Ohio State, I was impressed. The offensive line looked a lot better. And I was complaining about the wide receivers not blocking the way that I think that they can. And they did a much better job in week 2. So it's a team that you can feel there's a level of urgency. There's a bunch of guys who came back because they wanted to do really fun, important things in terms of winning. And these guys are playing and hopefully preparing like that too.
I think they understand that every time they get out there, because of the depth they got and trying to develop depth, they got to go get theirs ASAP, right? So you got to play fast. What are your keys, or what are your keys to this game for the Buckeyes?
Well, I think in games like this, if you get sloppy with the football, it becomes much harder, right? And when I say sloppy, I'm talking about turnovers, but also opportunities when the field gets short to score points, right? Like you got to punch it in the red zone instead of kicking field goals and making a team like Marshall feel like they got a victory because they kept you out of the end zone. They've got to do those things. I also think defensively in a game like this, we were always on high alert for the gadget plays, the different formations that come around, some of the trick plays that you get. Because if I'm Marshall, I'm opening up the whole playbook. I've got nothing to lose in a game like this. So I think it's really a discipline game, right? Protect the football, score when you get into the red zone, and then defensively, it's reading keys, trusting keys, and playing the way that the game is prescribed to you.
How important is that run game? I know people talk about the downfield passing. Do you need to see more of that? This will be the first game with Donovan Jackson back, who is the All-American left guard, maybe the best offensive lineman on Ohio State, but still there's always that integration element. I guess he's been practicing some, but Ryan Day said he is a go for Saturday. Will you be watching and monitoring that to kind of see how that left side looks and how they communicate and work together?
Yeah, I'll be watching. And we know Donovan last year took a little bit of a setback, but we know how good he is. And certainly the left side of the offensive line is maybe not looked as strong as it's looked when he's in there. So I think that is important. You mentioned the run game for Ohio State. I think as often as possible, they got to get those guys going. And Trey, we know what he is, especially when he's healthy. It's ridiculous. And then Quinshawn, we saw even on the one that got called back, the guy is it's ridiculous what he can do with the ball in his hands as well. And so I think that is one of the biggest benefits to Ohio State as constructed right now offensively. You can have balance and you can do both, and you should do both, and they can do them really well.
All right, Joshua, before we get you out of here, it's the 20-year anniversary of Mike Nugent banging a 55-yarder against Marshall. Speaking of like that Northern Illinois game and turning the football over, I think Zwick threw for like 300 yards but had 2 interceptions that day. Nugent kicks a 55-yarder as time expires into the south end zone. Do you remember any of that, Joshua? Is that a game that sticks with you at all?
It's not a game that sticks with me, but I think it's a game that sticks with you, Bobby.
Well, it is a game that sticks with me because when you're barely beating MAC teams, maybe they're Conference USA at that point. It was not a great situation by any stretch, but we did get the win. Fortunately, we're able to escape with that before we headed into some league play. So, Joshua, listen, we appreciate it. Do a great job here tomorrow night on the desk. Excited for you to go out there, watch some of these games, break them down. Folks, everybody give Josh a follow on social media. Make sure you check him out on Saturday night. Thank you so much, sir, for some time with us.
Oh, thanks for having me back, guys.
By the way, Georgette told me to tell you hello as well when I saw you next. Saw her at the game 2 weeks ago.
I was just in Columbus. Saw her yesterday. Yeah, it's she's gonna be out there tailgating, so make sure you say hi to her this weekend.
Hey, she's the real winner on Saturday because every home game, you know she's going to be showing up. She's Juicy J. Every time she goes out, you know she's going to show out. Joshua, have a great weekend.
Take care.
All right, coming up next, we've got our headlines, some of the biggest things happening in college football, and a big NIL deal for one young but pretty prominent Buckeye. Find out what it is next on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Bobby Carpenter. I want to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Affinity Whole Health, the leaders in the testosterone replacement industry. I've been on a testosterone replacement program for a few years right now, and I've got to tell you, it's been an absolute game changer. Affinity Whole Health has allowed me to be the best version of myself, both mentally and physically. I loved how easy it was to get started. I booked my free consultation, met with my prescriber, checked my numbers, and Affinity Whole Health designed a program that was customized to fit my needs. So I'm telling you guys, if you have low energy, you want to get rid of that spare tire around the waist or take it to the next level in the bedroom, Affinity Whole Health is the place to get started. So don't wait any longer. 5 minutes of your time, book your free consultation. You're going to love the way you feel. Welcome into our headlines, and as you can see, our headlines are brought to you by Affinity Whole Health. They offer personalized treatment plans, Schlegs, to help you feel better, whether you're struggling with weight loss, low energy, muscle loss, poor sleep. Affinity, they can help with all of it. I always tell you, I've been a patient there. I don't recommend things that I do not use. They're the best. They can help you with all of that. Affinity Whole Health will provide expert guidance for you to safely reach all of your health goals. They've got Ohio covered. They've got them in Cleveland. They've got them in Columbus. They've got a place in Indy. There's one up in Chicago. They've got places everywhere. So go check them out. Get a free consultation. All you got to do is go to affinityWholeHealth.com. That is affinityWholeHealth.com. Now, one big NIL deal coming out of this, and this is how it's supposed to work. So like, you get to school, you make some plays, people want to team up with you because you've got wings. And your guy, Jeremiah Smith, was cruising in a big way the first couple of weeks. He's been the toast of the town, the talk of the college football nation. And Schlegs just got a little endorsement from Red Bull. How about that? Unbelievable. First athlete ever to ever have a Red Bull endorsement. Not a professional, but a college athlete right at the Ohio State University.
Red Bull gives you wings and also makes you hypermobile and great ankle mobility so you can produce force into the ground and run 2 steps for 5 yards. It's awesome. I love it. Look at him. Hey, when that guy came on campus, I'm just looking at his thing on the Twitter. When he came, he didn't have any tattoos. Now he's got tattoos. He's looking swole. He's got veins in his biceps. It's awesome. Great kid, man. Happy for him.
What do the tattoos have to do with veins in the biceps?
It's nothing. It's just all of a sudden, like, just those things appeared. Kind of come in, 210, kind of smooth muscle. Next thing you know, 221, 222, tatted up, veins. I mean, let's go. I'm just looking at it. This is great. This is great.
Looking good, man. But that's awesome. This is how it's supposed to work, though. You come to Ohio State, you get a huge platform. You're on national television. People are throwing you up there on all the halftime and post-game shows. Congratulations, J.J. Smith. It's well-deserved. It's well-earned. Hopefully, it's the first of many more to come for him. All right, there's another guy. It's in the NFL. And I love Sauce Gardner, Cincinnati guy, under-recruited dude, Schlegs. You know, he's up there doing some great stuff. Him and Garrett Wilson going back and forth, iron sharpening iron in New York with the Jets. But his brother had some comments about him. And this is, like, I wanted to get this in here because I think it's important to understand, like, what greatness encapsulates and what you have to do to be that. Because he wasn't a highly recruited guy. He was the opposite of J.J. Smith. He was under the radar. He developed himself into a great player in college and now a great player in the NFL. But his brother said, as we throw this up, like, he's a film junkie, different guy. He don't drink, he don't smoke, he don't party. And then as you flip past to the next one, it's amazing. He starts talking about vacations. No days off. This is a Sauce Gardner quote, Schlegs. I love this. This is like Bill Belichick to a T. And this is how a lot of these Buckeyes are. Like, it's your job 24/7, 365. Talking about vacations. I feel like you're just trying to escape the lifestyle that you live. We play football. We should be training.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I just remember my dad even, like, our vacations in between seasons, because I played 3 sports. Parents, don't make your kids a one-sport guy or gal. Like, make them play multiple sports. It's good to learn that you're not the best at what you do so you can go work. And I love this about Saul because it's all about ball. But he said on here from age 4 he wanted to be the best NFL cornerback there ever was, right? So that's what drove him. And I remember even my dad, like, hey, we're going to go to a college and look at a stadium on our way to a wrestling tournament. And then he would go and gamble. I would eat at the all-you-can-eat buffet. He would walk out smiling, hey, just paid for the trip. And then we'd go look at Civil War battlefields. Like, that was our vacation. It was like the drive to the wrestling tournament, Civil War battlefields, gambling, and then back. But we're always wrestling or playing baseball. It was fantastic. I love this because people don't appreciate that constant work works. And that's what he's done. And he's developed himself into one of the very best.
Right. Just like God intended. The grind, Schleg's always about it. There are 2 other guys that are playing and squaring off that have a total, Schleg's, this year in a big game that could go a long way to deciding the Big 12. You've got Utah heading into Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State. They have a pair of quarterbacks, Mr. Schlegel Valley, that have both been in school for 7 years apiece. 7 years. And this isn't Tommy Boy. A lot of people go to school for 7 years. They're called doctors. But they've got Bowman. You've got our guy over there, Mr. Captain Jack Sparrow, looking super sweet, and Cam Rising. But 7 years. These guys, Schleg's, I want to say they're older. Oh, goodness, then. I'm trying to think who's playing this week.
Well, they said it says on the deal, by comparison, the combined age starting the quarterbacks in the Colts Bears is 44.
Yes.
Right? And they're 49. They're combined age.
It's not even close. It's not even close.
5 years difference.
This is good. Like, this is kind of the last year of these guys getting these COVID years to where they're going to be able to seemingly play forever. And I've talked to scouts about this. It's hard to get evals on these guys because he's like, they're 25. He's like, they're a 3-year vet in the NFL. How am I supposed to evaluate someone against a 21-year-old when these guys have played 4 more seasons? They've been in 5 different systems. They're going to be better. They're more experienced. They understand things. They know it. Okay. But are they able to translate that to the next level? I mean, it's crazy. These guys are almost 10 years older than the freshman wide receiver at Alabama, who I believe is 17 still.
Yeah.
Like Paris Campbell came into Ohio State. I think he was 16 when he first got in there because he early enrolled, turned 17 like right when he got to school or shortly thereafter. I mean, you're talking almost 10 years of difference sometimes. All right, we're taking a quick break here. We've got coming back tailgate talk. We're going to get into our keys to victory and the Thoughtful Thursday for my guy Tim Walton up next.
Building a home for the people who are worth it. Stepping out, throwing in a line, and dropping the tailgate for a picnic. And finding far-off campsites with the people you're closest to. Upgrade your truck, Jeep, or Bronco with over 1 million parts and accessories. And bring your truck to life. Real Truck.
All right, and Tailgate Talk that we're diving into is brought to you by Real Truck, the #1 truck accessory brand in the United States with top-selling truck upgrades for the ultimate tailgate party like maybe you're going to have tomorrow. Gear up this season and bring your truck to life like Schlegel and I did at realtruck.com. All right, Tim Walton drops a little knowledge nugget on the corners and DBs every single week. He shares that with us. We're going to share what yesterday's was with you before we get into what to watch for.
About faith movement, so I might add a little twist to it a little bit today. I thought for Thursday now I'm going to have the Jesus piece into it, all right? And it's called Jesus is the Reason. I've been down in the deep, struggling and praying for weeks. Something ain't right within my soul if I can't hear what he speaks. Spiritually battling the beast, trying to take over my peace. I started fasting, reaching places I couldn't even see. Now I'm covered in the power. Watch it take over my lungs, speaking life into the dreams that people told me were done. All right? Hey, let's believe in it, man. We got something special going on here. Let's stay with it. Make sure we handle our business, man. And we got.
Love Tim Walton. Incredibly powerful Schlegs each and every week. That's why those guys play so hard for him and G in the back end. All right, give me what you one of your first thing you want to see here.
First thing I want to see from the Buckeyes, Bob.
Yeah,
pretty simple, man. Run the ball, stop the run. OSU, like Joshua was talking about, they've only allowed one rush over 10 yards. You want to see that going because I don't believe that Marshall can throw the football, make him one-dimensional. But again, running the football is something that we want to do. You got to stop the run.
Yeah, I like where your head's at there. The line of scrimmage is always something you need to see dominated against teams like this. This is where the biggest separation should be. You've got Donovan Jackson coming back. I want to see that left side looking good. I want to see some of those long runs ripped off. No penalties this week. Keep it clean. And on the other side, it's a Marshall team that really can't throw the ball that well. They'll run it some with their quarterback. They're going to hand it off. They had 150 yards almost against Vatek. They need to make sure that they limit that. I think it's 1.1 yards per carry right now. Let's keep that going. All right, Schlegel, second thing.
Executed at a high level, no missed assignments, Bob. Like you talked about penalty-free football. That was an 80-yard run. But the no missed assignments, and that's what we talk about. When you see live bullets and you get a team like Marshall that wants to come in, they're going to show you something different. How do you correct on the field? How do you make those adjustments? How do you communicate with your coaches and other players so no missed assignments?
Absolutely. My second one's going to be, I want to see some deep shots. And I want to see them connected. Will Howard hitting them in stride. These receivers are elite. We want to run the ball. I get that. I don't need this team to throw it 45 times. But when you're running it that effectively, you're going to get some shots down the field. We talked about Mel Kiper outlawing 2 deep safeties. You know how you get outlaw 2 deep safeties? Run the ball. You get single high coverage, and then your receivers can work on the outside. I want to see Will Howard connect. People say he couldn't throw the deep ball, Schlegs. I've seen him throw it. It looks good. I want everybody else to see it now. What's your third?
Third is protect the quarterback. Marshall is only not one of 9 FBS teams averaging 4 sacks per game. And they're going to have to blitz. Like that's where the deep shots are going to come from, Bob. But you got to pick it up. So we really haven't seen a team attack our quarterback the way I think Marshall is. So protect the quarterback. And we didn't get any turnovers last week. We had 3 the first week. Let's get some turnovers. So protect the quarterback, create turnovers.
All right, my last one. I'd like to see some explosion in the kicking game. You know, like let's get it going. You know, take care of business. Watch some nice returns in the punt game in the first game. They're going to punt a lot. Hopefully only 1 kickoff in this game. Maybe they get a field goal or 2, another opportunity, but maybe some explosion there. The special teams have been pretty good this year. Let's continue to hone into those because you're going to need them when you get in some of these tight games. All right. That is our 3 things we would like to see. That is our Thoughtful Thursday nugget from Coach Tim Walton. Coming up next, we got our Dude of the Week.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the
They're off in the Kentucky Derby as Authentic takes them around the far turn. Tis the Laws making his move now, and they're into the stretch. These 2 stride for stride. Authentic, tis the Law. Here's the wire. Authentic has won the Kentucky
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
All right, final segment of the program, final segment of the week. And just like we do each and every week, Schlegs, we put out our Dude of the Week, always remembering that the dude is not a gender, a dude is a lifestyle. Sir, I'll let you go first. Dude of the Week.
Yeah, my Dude of the Week was, and I unfortunately said it like 3 weeks ago because of the pace that he was on, but just knowing baseball, Shohei Ohtani is now 51-51 in home runs and stolen bases. That's absolutely just mind-blowing considering the fact that in his game, he had 10 RBIs and he had 3 home runs in that game. I mean, like, he's just doing things that nobody else has in the game of baseball. Pretty significant.
I think, what is he, 6 for 6, 2 steals in there. I mean, unbelievable. He has something about, I think 10 RBIs is the most by a leadoff hitter ever, because the only way you're getting a lead RBI on the first at bat is if you hit a home run, for heaven's sake. Like, there's no one on the bases. So absolutely wild. My dude of the week is going to be our former kicker, Schlegel. 20 years ago against Marshall, Mike Nugent banged a 55-yarder to win the game. Hopefully he doesn't need to they don't need to bang a 55-yarder to win this time around. But it was tremendous to see. One of my all-time favorites, great dude, lives down the street. Love the guy Schlegel, and you know how talented he is. He won us a lot of stinking football games. So Mike Nugent, my dude of the week. All right, that's all the time we have for today, folks, this week. Enjoy it. We've got a huge, big noon kick with Marshall. Football is back for the Buckeyes this weekend, so stay locked in. We'll have all the wrap-up for you on Monday's show, so be sure to tune in 12:30 on YouTube, and then I'm playing on Bally's as well. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Bobby Carpenter Show.